and welcome to my coffee bar in my upstairs kitchen. I am having a really bad day today, so I thought that I would record it and upload it for the entire internet to see. I just have been struggling lately with life stuff and a series of bad news, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys because I'm in my honesty era, I guess. I'm in my just don't sugarcoat anything and just put it all out there era, which is really interesting. I spent 3 hours today in the middle of the afternoon curled up in bed under a blanket crying, and that's very unlike me. I hate being idle, I hate being still, I hate being, unproductive, and so for me to not be productive means that I was really going through it, because even in moments where I am struggling with something, typically the way I get through that is by just working hard, filling up my time, and not giving myself enough time to throw myself a pity party. So if I was to the point where I just wanted to cry and take a nap and sleep, then that's how you know Jenna was really not feeling great. But it is 8:35 at night, so it's kind of late and my face is super red and puffy from crying, but I thought, you know what? I'm gonna be productive in my pain. I'm not gonna let this get me down. I will do something about it. I am not going to quit. I will not give up. I will not let I will not let the only thing I did today be cry, because that is just not like me. Even if I have those moments, it's still just not like me. So I thought I am gonna treat myself to a cozy autumnal night of reading. Connilyn Cossette's most recent book, Voice of the Ancient, just came out, I think last month or somewhere around there. I am just going to read it and have a cozy night in, light a pumpkin candle, and just let myself feel some feelings. I actually already started the book, and I got a little bit of the way into it, but I was just reading it casually, and I think now is the time where I put everything in and just read. I think I might get out some colorful pens and maybe annotate it too, and just really treat myself to a classic night of reading, serious reading, because it's been a long time since I've really just given myself permission to do nothing but get lost in a story, because I've been busy with life and career and all different kinds of things. So today is a get back to your roots day, rediscover your joy day, power through the pain day, and just be who God made you to be day. And that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna find some comfort and joy in things that fill me up and make me happy, and we're gonna be productive while we're doing it, because that's who I am. This is my upstairs coffee bar. I do have a coffee maker, and I made coffee and I drank a latte this morning, but right now I have a Starbucks pumpkin drink. So that's what we're gonna do. Pumpkin drink, cozy pajamas, pumpkin candle, maybe put on some TV in the background, like a fall autumnal rom-com-ish movie. It's gonna be good. We're gonna have a good time. These are my little fall coffee decorations too, by the way. I think they look really cute in my coffee bar. But yeah, let's make our way downstairs, shall we? Let's make our way downstairs into my basement for our cozy, chill book basement reading evening. And then I'm gonna vlog it, and I'm gonna vlog my reactions to Connilyn Cossette's book, Voice of the Ancient, and I'm going to love it, because I just know I will. And I know I'm gonna love it even more right now, because I'm sure it'll speak to me and what I'm going through. And I'm also sure that being able to just lose myself in it is gonna make me appreciate it a million times more. And it's just gonna be like the olden days of this YouTube channel, you know what I'm saying? I am beyond frustrated right now because as I've been telling you all about my like terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day yesterday and just how I've been going through a really rough season, I was just playing back through all of the footage that I've taken over the last day of doing this reading vlog, and all of it I accidentally somehow filmed in slow motion. So there's no audio and all of it is just me in slow motion, and I don't know how that happened. And now I have to figure out what to do. I guess I could start over and repeat myself and everything that happened in the last several clips, but it's a little bit disappointing, not gonna lie. So I'm feeling a little discouraged yet again, but there have been a lot of parts of reading this book that have been encouraging. So yeah, I guess I can talk about that. I just can't believe that I filmed my entire vlog in slow motion. So hey, hello, and welcome back to my Voice of the Ancient by Connilyn Cossette reading vlog that I filmed almost entirely in slow motion, but at least I caught it now that I'm halfway through the book. So I'll just kind of go back through and recap everything that I previously already said, just in very slow motion. Another reason behind me wanting to do this and do this reading vlog, besides just trying to make myself feel better and just have fun doing what I used to do and being like getting back to my roots, I also just got this brand new camera, so I'm still getting used to all of the new settings and the new buttons and everything because my old camera just died. It stopped working, which makes sense because my husband and I have had that camera since we were 17 and 18 years old, and I'm about to turn 25. So that camera was on its last leg probably. It had been through a lot. We've used it for all of our vacations and all of our family things and also my vlogging and YouTube-ing, so makes sense. But I didn't even know that this camera had a slow motion function, so I'm a little bit flabbergasted right now because I was not expecting that. But I've been sitting here by my fake fireplace reading this book, not all day. This morning it was actually really rainy and gloomy out, so I went onto my back deck and sat on the deck in my swing and read outside with just the sounds of nature. It didn't actually rain, but it was really dark and stormy and like just gloomy out, which was pretty funny because I looked at the weather forecast and it said bright, sunny, and clear, and it absolutely was not. But if I've learned anything, I've learned that that is the Midwest. So yeah, this morning I went outside and read and just enjoyed like the peacefulness of being outside and the nature sounds and all of that. And that was really, really refreshing, and I really enjoyed that. And it just made me really grateful for the area in which that I live, because I definitely connect a lot to God when I'm out in nature, and I see him a lot in nature, and being able to just go out and sit amongst my trees was very inspiring and rejuvenating and made me feel happy and content for a little bit, which was really nice because I don't know if you can tell, but I have definitely also already cried tears today and have not really been myself. But after I had a good long cry this morning, I did my hair, I put my makeup on, I put on a cute little outfit, or an outfit that I felt comfy in, at least. It's this like matching gold colored suit, like sweatshirt and sweatpants that I got from Walmart because Walmart fashion is where it's at, and it's really comfy and really soft and very, very fall colors. And I curled my hair and I did my makeup, not because I was going anywhere. I wish I was going somewhere. I wish I had something to do. I wish my circumstances right now were different, but I just did it to make myself feel good about myself and feel better and feel alive, feel more like a person. So whatever you have to do to make yourself feel like a person today, go ahead and do that. And then read some of this morning outside, and I've been reading it inside ever since. I'm not sure, yeah, last night, I think the very first clip that I accidentally filmed in slow motion was last night, which, by the way, I discovered that the button to switch my camera to slow motion is right next to the button to press record. So I just have to learn to be careful about that in the future. And you know what? You never make the same mistake twice, so that's never gonna happen again. But last night I was reading, and right before my husband got home, I turned on the camera to update y'all because I had gotten to page page 98, and you can tell because I wrote whoa next to page 98 because I was completely blown away by the plot twist about 100 pages in that Imati was actually Kezia's birth mother. Her maid was actually her mom, so that was really shocking. And I did this whole thing last night where I was talking about like how I should have known that Connie was going to trick me in this book. I should have known to not be comfortable, but I was like legitimately settled in, all cozy. I had my candle lit and I was feeling cozy vibes, and I was just like, wow, this is really nice and comforting. I should have known that there was going to be nothing cozy about this story. And don't get me wrong though, I'm loving it, but I should have known to be more prepared to have my jaw fall to the floor. Wow, that was very exciting. Something else that I loved, I've been annotating this book as I go, and I don't really have, I've talked about this before, but I don't really have like a symptom, oh my word, a system. I don't really have a system for how I annotate books. I just kind of underline things that stick out to me, and I draw arrows and hearts and exclamation points next to different things. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just a feeling. And we go off of feelings here. I love the way Connilyn ends chapters, by the way. All of her chapter endings are so poignant, and I loved in chapter 10 and 11, which is about where I stopped last night, was chapter 10, chapter 11. I think I might have read through chapter 12, but that's where I stopped last night, was chapter 11 or chapter 12. Let me just try to find it in the book. The end of chapter 10 and the end of chapter 11 really just felt like such turning points for both Kezia and Avedon, and I loved how they were both written. At the end of chapter 10, from Kezia's perspective, it's, with the blessing made in the name of a God I did not know, ringing in my ears, I honored the woman I'd only known as my mother for less than a day by guiding my horse toward the freedom she'd given up for me. So that's after Kezia's kind of discovered like who she is and what's coming next for her, and having to like run away and flee the marriage to that evil, evil man. And then Avedon at the end of chapter 11 is like fresh from battle, which is what he thought he wanted. He left and, you know, lied about his heritage basically to get in on fighting, and, you know, abandoned kind of his family and walked away from his parents and everything he knew. In the end of chapter 11, after sucking in painful gulps of air tinged with both smoke and the coppery scent of blood, I heeded his advice and pushed to my feet. I wiped the sick from my mouth with one shaking hand, gripping the dagger I somehow still held, white-knuckled in the other. The sounds of battle were already waning, and I saw no enemies around me other than the ones already engaged with my cousins and other Hebrews not far away. I spun slowly, taking in the savagery that surrounded me on all sides, the dead man at my feet, the burning or toppled tents, the agonized screams of the broken bodies that littered the ground, and those whose eyes stared sightlessly at the heavens above. Nothing but destruction and torment lay before me, and my father was right. None of it was glorious. So the ending of both of those chapters to me just felt like such turning points for the characters, and moments where this is like a coming of age story, right? So it's moments not necessarily where they came of age, but where you can tell they stopped being children, or they stopped being, I guess, immature, I guess is maybe the right word that I'm looking for. And they were starting to change and starting to develop. And then I also really, really loved, and I've already kind of talked about this in a previously recorded in slow motion clip, but in page 129, Avedon says, "Please, Yahweh," I whispered, "help me." The plea came almost unbidden from my lips, making me feel foolish for talking to empty air, but I'd spent a lifetime hearing my father speak of Yahweh's nature, the one who hears, he called him. Although I'd never put voice to the questions I had about things he seemed so convinced of, I'd also never spent much time meditating on the ways I'd been taught since infancy. Samuel and the priests recalled stories of Abraham, Yaakov, and Moshe calling out to Elohim and receiving answers, yet I was anything but a hero of faith. In fact, I'd all but rejected my own Levitical heritage when I ignored the law to run off and fight for Saul. Why would Yahweh bother listening to such an ignorant fool? However, as I continued to search, the story of Hagar and her pleas in the wilderness on behalf of her son Ishmael came to mind. If anyone deserved to be rescued by the one who hears, it was tender-hearted and innocent Shalem. So I set aside my doubts and pleaded for answers, and when they came only a short time later, I almost could not believe my eyes. So something that I love about this book
is that I am equally drawn to both of the main characters. I feel like most of the time in fiction, there's always one character that I love more than the other, whether that's the guy character or the girl character. There's always one that I connect more with than the other. And then, like, I'm interested in them both, but I have a favorite. And with this book, I really feel like drawn to both of their characters, and that's something that I love to see. I feel invested equally in both of their arcs, but especially with Avi, I love his, talk and dialogue, or I guess narrative voice about his family heritage and growing up, like hearing these things and kind of knowing in his head all of these stories, which comes into play later. But he knows in his head all of these stories and all of these rituals and all of the like technical knowledge of why he and his family believe what they believe and why they do what they do and why they practice their faith the way they practice it. But he's never really taken it as his own. So he has this family heritage, but it's starting to become his heritage too. And I love those themes. I love the humor in this book. I love kind of the banter between the two characters. I love Kezia. I love her kind of fierceness and her passion, but mostly just like her fierceness. She won't let, what Amati did for her be for nothing. She is really a fighter in her own way, even though she needs Avi to protect her. And when they meet, which I outlined a million times their meeting, but even though when they meet, she needs his protection and they make a deal to travel together with each other because they both mutually need something from each other, she's still a fighter in her own way, even though she can't physically fight to protect herself. She's got like a fight emotionally and a strength to her that I really, really love seeing that develop. I also love Avedon. Kezia this entire time, it's just been really funny because she's so scared to tell him the truth about who she is because she's disguised as a boy. But from the moment he pretty much meets her, he knows that she's a girl and he's just not like saying anything about it. He's totally letting her play out her ruse because he assumes she has her reasons and he doesn't want to like frighten her or push her to do anything she doesn't want to do. But like page 149, the whispered words continued, but my mind had shuddered to a halt. The boy I had saved from those ruffians was a girl. So he knows this whole time, but she's also like, I can't tell him because when he finds out that I'm a girl, I'll like lose all of his trust and he'll never want to speak to me again, because from her world and in her world, people don't really like give women the time of day and they're not looked at. She's not used to being treated with respect. She's not used to being treated with kindness or dignity, or really feeling like she has any kind of choice in her life. Whereas Avedon has been raised by incredibly strong women and he has, respect for her and her situation, or what he knows of it, even though he doesn't know all of her secrets yet. But he knows this whole time that she's a girl and she's just scared to tell him. And I love that because I'm here for the drama and I love that she's like, I can't tell him. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, but you should tell him because then you can be together and be in love. So I'm definitely loving that. I also love how later in the story, Avedon becomes a storyteller. And this is where we really start to see him truly coming of age, is around like the 171, chapter 17, chapter 18. He starts telling stories of the faith. And he does this at first to get food for him and Kezia. He trades stories for food because he knows all of these stories, being raised Levitical heritage and in the strong faith-filled family home. But then he starts telling these stories to Kezia too, because she's never heard them. And it's been really interesting and fascinating to read the perspectives of someone who grew up maybe with some knowledge of Yahweh and that faith, but because of where they live and years of different things going on, her faith, Kezia's faith, is very intermingled with other gods and other myths and deities and false deities, obviously. Whereas Avi, is like so blown away that someone could think that way. He's like, he questions, is this really what life is like? Outside of his home, he's used to everyone kind of believing the same thing as he is. And for him, he's confronting like the fact that there are people out there, maybe not because they choose not to believe it, maybe because they just don't know. My writerly heart just loves his descriptions of telling stories, his descriptions of finding descriptions for things is so relatable, but there's just such a warmth to it that I love, and it really draws me into his character. And I love that he's a storyteller so much, and evidently so does Kezia, because you can see all of that blue there. I have really underlined the living daylights out of this book, but this was one of my favorite moments too that I just wanted to read. And I enjoyed watching his sweet interactions with the shepherd's children during the meal. Same. And listening to the mellifluous tone of his voice as he told story after story over the fire, each one filled with so much detail that I felt as if I was there with Yaakov, deceiving his blind father with the goat hide on his arms, sweating as he slaved under the sun for 14 years for love of his Rachel, and then with Yosef, shivering in the bottom of the pit as he screamed fruitlessly for brothers who'd left him for dead. I'd wanted Avedon to continue talking forever, filling my mind with the vivid pictures he drew with words. What surprised me even more than his skill for weaving stories with such a passion was how he spoke of Yahweh. Anything I'd ever heard of the god our ancient ancestors worshipped made him sound terrifying, a deity who meted out justice with horrifying plagues and demanded perfect obedience and absolute holiness. And yet Avedon spoke of Yahweh like he was a benevolent deity who loved his people, who spoke to Yaakov in a dream about the beautiful future that lay ahead, and who guided him, blessed him, and caused him to flourish in spite of his many weaknesses. I'd been astounded when Yosef had cried out to Yahweh, trusted him in each circumstance, and then forgave his brothers for the cold-blooded crime of selling him for the price of a slave. I found myself hungry for more stories of my ancestors and the ancient ways that Avedon's family still held to. Perhaps I should make room for worship of the God of my fathers alongside my beautiful goddess after all. So, as soon as Avedon and I were back on the road, I asked him to tell me more about the festivals he'd spoken of last night. So I underlined all of this, and then I don't know if you can see, but I wrote next to it beautiful, because I was really loving all of Connie's descriptions of Yahweh and his love, and I knew that this would be like a passage that I wanted to return to later. And you can see I underlined all of that, and then I get to the very next page where I was, again, just so in the zone. So picture that you're me, you're so in the zone, you're engrossed in this detail and this beautiful description of Yahweh and the history of the faith and the patriarchs and all of these stories of God's deliverance. And then all of a sudden, I'd been so wrapped up in the descriptions of the meaningful and rich traditions his family enjoyed and the way he spoke of his parents, siblings, and extended family with such adoration that I could not help but scream with my full voice when something swooped at me with a piercing shriek, nearly colliding with my head. With a flutter of wings, the terrible creature darted back up into one of the oak trees that lined the road. "Are you all right? That kestrel must be protecting its nest," Avedon said, his grip on my waist tightening. My breaths coming in fast, one upon the other. I shook my head with vehemence. I hate birds. And with that moment, I wrote, haha, next to it, because it was in that moment that I realized that Avedon and I were not only soul siblings, but Kezia and I were soul siblings too, because I hate birds so much. I'm with her on that. I had a traumatic experience with birds when I was a child, and I've never really recovered. Birds give me the creeps. I don't like being near birds at all, even tiny ones. Bird song can be beautiful, but birds near me, I'll pass. But I loved that moment because for one, it made the character relatable, but for another, it was just like really funny to me and really well written to have paragraph after paragraph of like illustrious description and beautiful character development and growth, and then like immediately undercut that with like birds, and I hate birds, and it made me I literally laughed out loud as I was reading this outside on my back deck while conveniently listening to birds in the morning. But it was just one of those things that I was like, oh my word, this girl gets me. I get her. I get all of these characters. I love this story. I love the coming of age elements. I love I love Kezia and her strength. I love Avedon and his storytelling and his, he's got this pain that he's carrying around with him. And I love pain in books, honestly. I find that my favorite stories are stories of characters that are dealing with excessive pain and they rise above it, or they get through it, or they find a way to get through it, because that's what appeals to me as a reader and as someone who also goes through life, those are the kinds of stories that I like the most because they inspire me and strengthen me and instill that same hope in me. So I love all of those elements of this book. This book basically just has everything that I look for in a book. I love coming of age stories. I love siblings. I love cousins. I love family dynamics. I love family heritage in stories. I love strong female characters, truly strong characters. Not, necessarily fierce characters, but ones that have a strength to them, an internal strength. I love male characters that are growing through stuff and going through stuff and growing through stuff. And I love everything about this book. I am currently on page 189. And Avedon is finally, it looks like, about to tell Kezia about the truth about where he's from, why he's kind of on the run from since like the battlefield, why he's not with the rest of the army, and what the truth is about his cousin he's looking for, and why his cousin is lost, because it's his fault and he's been carrying around this grief. And Kezia knows because she hears him like talking in his sleep about it, but she doesn't really know the full story. So I think Avedon's about to tell her, and I hope that means that Kezia is also about to tell Avedon the truth. We just got to we just did the waterfall scene, and then the waterfall scene, and then the teaching her how to swim scene. So those were so fun. So many feelings. I'm giving this book a 10 out of 10. I'm at 190 pages, 189, 190 pages. I have a little more than 100 pages left, basically, because it's about 320-ish, I think, total. So I've got like 130, 140 pages left. I think I can finish this really, really quickly. I don't want to, because I know it will cause me immense pain, but I'm excited. So yeah, I'm gonna keep reading and see what happens. See if Avedon tells Kezia the truth, see if Kezia tells Avedon the truth, because I know once they tell each other the full story, that's when the story is gonna kick into high gear. So I'm loving it so far. This has been really good for my soul, for my heart, and I'm just feeling so refreshed and rejuvenated by this story. Even though I'm currently going through some hard times, there's been a lot that I've taken from it, and a lot of beautiful quotes and things that I have really just enjoyed. So I will try to highlight more of those as I read, and I will update you shortly. So it hasn't been that long, but it's been long enough, and I don't want to not vlog because I feel like I'm getting to a point in the book where I'm about to lose all focus of everything else existing in this world and just zero in on finishing this story. But I was right. They finally both told each other the truth, and I drew a million hearts next to it. I loved everything about it. I loved when on page 190, the part, it's from Kezia's perspective. I had no words of wisdom to offer because I felt the same way about Imati. If it were not for me, she would still be alive. In fact, my very existence had kept her enslaved for over half of her life. But I could not speak those things aloud without revealing myself, so I tried to reassure him instead. She says, "We will find him, Avi. Even if your God is as all-knowing and powerful as you say he is, then he can lead you to him, can't he?" And Avi says, "I should probably listen a little better to my own stories." And I loved that because I think all of us have this sometimes struggle where we're struggling with something specific, and if someone else is struggling, it's a lot easier for us to recount God's goodness to them and not necessarily take it to heart for ourselves. So that was really wonderful. And then Avi's like, "Well, since I've told you this, can you tell me about why you are trying to hide that you're a girl. And she's just like floored that he knew the whole time. So I loved it. Like, she didn't ever really end up confessing it to him herself. He just finally was like, I told you my story, so you tell me yours. And that was amazing. And I loved, from Avi's perspective, my anger at the boys who'd beaten her and stolen from her flared to life again, because it had not only been the silver they'd taken, but something priceless to her. However, it was nothing compared to the fury that sparked to life after hearing that her father had traded his precious daughter to a man who had bruised her, threatened her, and meant to use her before passing her off to another savage. Warrior or not, I had the strong urge to relieve both men of their worthless heads. I love him. I love them both so much. This is so good. And then, like, literally a second later, I was crying because he starts talking about his dad and gratitude for my own Abba and the way he led our family with such honor and steadfastness welled up. And my throat went tight as I thought of how much I had wronged him with my rebellious actions. When had I forgotten how desperately I'd once wanted to walk in his admirable footsteps as a boy? I literally wrote next to it, crying, because I was crying. I wasn't really crying, but I've cried too much to cry. I don't have tears left to actually cry, but I was like, in my heart was crying about this. And then the Ammonites attack them, and Avi has to save Seru, the horse, and Kezia thinks they've died, but they haven't, and then all three of them wash up to shore, and they, like, embrace each other. And Kezia says, it was almost as though some unseen hand had gently shepherded us on the same path in chapter 22, page 201. And I love that because she's finally starting to, like, open up to this idea of a Yahweh that's different than any Yahweh that's ever been portrayed to her or how she's ever understood him before. And it's so beautiful. And now Avi and Kezia are back on track. They're back en route to find her family and for him to find Shalem. And it's just, they're following the same path. They figured out they're following the same path as Saul's army, but the farther they go, the, like, less they find people are, like, friendly or willing to talk about anything. And people are very, like, not super pleased about what's going on with the armies and with the fighting and everything. So, but basically they both have feelings for each other, and I'm anxious for them to sort those feelings out. But I knew that if I didn't stop to comment on those things that I would never stop. So I had to stop really quickly. But yeah, I'm gonna dive right back in, and I don't know, I might never get up from this chair. I might finish the entire book sitting in this chair. Yeah, I don't know. I was talking in my recordings that were not slow motion, or that were slow motion that I can't use in this video. I was talking about how I thought I would, like, pace myself throughout the whole day and maybe stop to make dinner and do a crock pot meal, and that is just definitely not happening. I have to finish this story. So I'm sorry, it's probably going to be a short vlog and it's mostly just going to be me sitting in this chair, but I am obsessed. I love this book so much. So I finally finished the book. It's like 4:30 in the afternoon. I came back out on my porch just so I wasn't gonna film the whole video sitting in the same chair. But I kid you not, I started this morning and I read through the entire day and I loved it so much. And then I got to the epilogue, and first of all, I already loved it from the last like chapter, but then I got to the epilogue, and I kid you not, I read all the way except for like one page left, and then I just sat there in the chair doing nothing and sitting completely still for like 20 minutes because I didn't want to read the last page. So that's how good it was. Like I physically could not bring myself to end it from a psychological standpoint. It was impossible, but this just made me so happy, and I can't wait for the rest of the series because it sets up everything. It sets up everything I want from the series. It sets up the other characters so well. It's such a good like launching point for a book series, and I want to read them all now. Like I forgot what a joy it was to have a new Connilyn Cossette book to look forward to all the time. And this just made me really happy, and I'm glad that I read it, and I'm glad that I didn't sign up for the review team for it. Because I think if you've been following my videos, you'll know that I took a step back from being on review teams in the last couple of years because it's very overwhelming, and I'm trying to manage my time better and accept less so that I succeed in more. But I'm glad that I just got to like read it for fun because it reminded me of why I got into reading books in the first place and why I started out. And yeah, I actually, when I was reading outside this morning, I dropped my book on the ground, so it's a little bit dirty, but I think I shared most of my favorite highlights and quotes. There was one part that I thought I would quickly share before the video ends. Give me a sec, I have to find it. It's somewhere in here. It was chapter 30 from Avi's perspective, and I think that this just is a good one to share because it sums up my entire feelings about the whole book itself. And it's chapter 30, and I was reading, and I literally just drew an arrow and wrote brilliance because Connie's writing is brilliant, and this book was brilliant, and all I can really think of when I think about it is just pure brilliance, and a brilliant story, and brilliant writing, and a brilliant plan. Like it's pure brilliance. So I highly recommend this book. I hope you enjoyed watching this reading vlog, even if half of the footage was missing because I filmed it all in slow-mo and was still getting used to my new camera. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. If you want to get to know more about me or follow along, these are other platforms where you can find me and more information about me and who I am and my own books as well. So I think that bugs pretty much sums it up. But yeah, I will see you guys in my next video, and be sure to let me know in the comments if you want me to do more vlogs. I'm sorry it wasn't more interesting. I had more footage. It disappeared. Alas. Thank you guys. Bye.